Hello, good morning. I trust everybody's well. Welcome to my next video, which is an amplifier. It's something that I actually saw on a Facebook group and I thought, wow, that looks amazing. And there's a little feature in it, which I'll go into in a second, that I thought I want to try that. And luckily enough, found one on eBay, listed as spares or repairs. It said one channel's not working properly. So here we are, a Rotel RX-402 stereo receiver amplifier. This is in dirty but good condition, I would suggest. It has 1, 2, 3 channel radio and 2 inputs. 3 inputs? 2 inputs. I'll double check on the back. Tape monitor, muting, loudness, blah blah blah. So, intention is for this is to give it a good service, clean up, see what's wrong with it, try and get it repaired, and then we'll go from there. Case on this is all wood and it is in a surprisingly good condition, if I'm honest with you. There's no real scratches in it. It's a lovely colour, and to be honest with you, this is just a really nice looking thing. It's, you know, the wooden frame stuff I'm a fan of if it's the right colour. This grill on the top has kind of developed a little bit of marks and rust, which I can sand down and repaint, but condition wise, not a lot to report. It's just as you can see from the dials there, they're all a bit manky. They all need to come off and be cleaned and dusty. The back's a bit of a strange place. All the inputs for the phono and the tape aux and the tape monitor are the old DIN plugs, which can be a pain. The antenna has a pretty standard FM aerial plug and it has a fold-up aerial there. It also has main amp and pre-out jumpers on it. We have some kind of random switch power supply thing there, and then we also have our ye olde worldy 2-pin speaker cable connectors, which I'm not a fan of, but we'll get to that. And then what we have there is the main reason why I bought this, Quadrasound. Just the word is enthralling. This is, from what I understand, you can fire in 2 sets of speakers there, and it kind of gives you a half fake Dolby kind of surround sound kind of thing, and that is very curious to me, and that is what I want to test out with this amp, if I'm honest with you. I also have a nice little stamp down there that says RX-402. So let's see if we can fire it up and see what it looks like. When firing up an amplifier of unknown condition, there's a couple of things you should really do. First of all is use this safety test lamp. And what this will do is, if there's any major shorts in the power supply, this will stay illuminated. So when you turn it on, this will draw the current away if there's any kind of shorts, basically letting you know that there's a short and you can work on it before rectifying it. So say if one of the transistors is shorted to ground and you've got a hard short, this will light up. When you plug it in and turn it on, I expect this will light up for a second as the capacitors charge and hopefully dim and go out. That's the first thing. A lot of people use a radiac, which is kind of a big switch, like a rotational power switch basically, that'll bring the power up slowly from 0 up to 240 or 110 if you're in the States. I don't have one of them, so this is what I'm relying on, and it works fine. I've worked it in the past. There's plenty of videos on how to build one of these. It's literally just a lighting series. So this is the first thing I'm going to do for safety. So for a little continuity then, so I'll turn the power switch on. We've got 240 supplied to this, so when I flick this on, I'm expecting that light to glow up and hopefully go out. If it stays glowed up, we've got a hard short. That's good. So realistically, there's no hard shorts in there. I'm happy with that. So there's power to that now. So let's have a look, see what it looks like. So this is a nice surprise straight away, because obviously spares and repairs, you don't even know what's going on. We've got a FM tuning meter on the left there, which is illuminated in a kind of nice green colour. And all of our receiver dial is all illuminated there in green and orange. So that's pretty cool. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test to make sure there's no DC power coming through the speaker connectors. And if there isn't, we can hook some speakers up and see what we've got. So the first challenge we've got is the fact that you're not going to get a standard speaker cable in there. I'm not a fan of these, but the decision as to whether to convert these to kind of banana plugs, I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the amp. I'd like to keep it, but I have a really nice amp at the moment, so I'll have to give it a test, see what it goes like. A solution on eBay, I think these are about £2.50 for a pair, it's basically a converter plug. And if you unscrew that, inside there you've got a nice little Phillips screwdriver speaker connector. It'll allow you to connect your speakers up to these. These are really common for the BO cord stuff, for the Bang & Olufsen, which I've featured in one of my old videos. So I'm going to connect my test speakers up to these, plug them in, and see if we can get any noise out of it. If you're going to mess about with amplifiers, just while I get the wiring in check for this, get yourself a set of speakers. I'll pick these up from a charity shop and the sticker's still on the top. £5 for the pair. Week 50, I bought them recently, so week 50 I'd like to think was 2 weeks before New Year's Eve, possibly. If you blow them, you know, so what have you lost? You lost a £5, but we can have a good check on the connectors first to make sure we don't blow anything. So what we're doing is there should be a relay in there that clicks on like a protection relay, so that if there's an electrical short on the boards and whatnot inside the amplifier, if it decides to put voltage towards your speakers, which it shouldn't do, then the protection relay should kick in and protect your speakers in an ideal world. I don't know if that works, I don't even know if it has one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this in naked and then put a multimeter across it, and we shouldn't see any DC volts between the positive and negative poles of all 4 speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and test them now, and then hopefully we can crack on. So I'm in millivolts DC now. And if this is turned on, if I connect those across the poles, I'm getting... yeah, we're not getting anything across that one. And then we'll do the same for the other side on this one. Same again, good. We're halfway there, as Bon Jovi said. So that's getting 0.04 volts. So what is that? 4 millivolts, kind of okay. And this side is going to be just about 0. So the right side over here has a very slightly higher power rating going through it. Now it could be that the speaker selector switch on the front is the reason why this isn't happening. So I've got this is the right speaker of speaker 1. So if I select speaker 2, just to double check if speaker 1, yeah. So they're both selected now, that's probably my failure, but let's just check this side and make sure that there's nothing else. I expect this one is now going to go up. Yeah, so these two now match. That's slightly higher, 0.04 volts DC. And that one is hardly anything, 0.007 volts. I can't remember what's a millivolt and what's a microvolt and all the rest of the stuff. So basically the right hand side is kicking out 0.04 volts. That's safe for a set of speakers, but at the same time it's a bit odd that it's not identical between the two. So yeah, let's see what happens when we let's try and half tune the radio in. I can't play any music because YouTube doesn't like it, but as long as we get static from either side, hook the speakers up and see what we get. And these are pretty straightforward. These are just a little terminal connector. I mean, they aren't the greatest quality in the world, but for the sake of testing this, if I'm going to keep it, I would suggest I'm probably going to put banana plugs on it, because who doesn't like banana plugs? Once you've got these tightened down, we can tighten up the sleeve. Don't forget to put the sleeve over your cable first, because otherwise you can't tighten it up. Ta-da! Right then, so we're all done, both sides. What I'm expecting out of this is, because there was absolutely no voltage coming out of this left hand side, I'm expecting the right hand side to be working, left hand side to be not working. But the beauty of a one channel going out on an amplifier is, if you have one channel working, you have a service manual, you can do all your testing and whatnot, hopefully you can trace through and find out what's not working on that particular side. So I'll hook these up now. And this is speaker 1 left. Oh God, they won't like that.
what's called a private rented tenancy, which is the old type of tenancy, which ended about 4
That
or 5
works.
years ago.
That's the left side of speaker set
There's an
1.
incentive for a landlord and one of them to
Let's
say,
try.
let's get the tenant out and then put the rent up. But yes, we are very much seeing the statistics showing rents going up, are partly driven by
beautiful
the
Scottish
to put
accent.
rents up when the tenant's in situ.
Amazing.
What would happen after the 30?
Right, so hopefully you could hear me over that, but both sides there work fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap to the other side, which is speaker set 2. There is a switch on the front for speaker set 1 and 2. And then we'll also play this Quadrasound switch just to make sure there's nothing. It did say on the listing that one channel wasn't working. Why that would be, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was an error with whoever was testing in the first place. So let's turn this back on.
And rental controls, trying to choose my
So that side,
so it very much appears as though,
to me, as I'm sticking that.
if the Green Party remain within
So that side is working, but it's noticeably quieter. This is speaker set 2. Now obviously the amplifier's only been on for, I don't know, I'm going to unplug these. Amplifier's only been on for about 10 minutes. So what I think I might do is give it a good hour, let everything warm up, because who knows the last time that this was plugged in. There's definitely a difference between sides for volume, but it's not a massive amount if I plug in this side.
to be an ad hoc basis. I'm sure the sector would say, well, what would be better would be
Straight into there.
a discussion about what is causing
Speaker set 2 is quieter.
it's a lack
Now there might be a reason for that.
of
I'm not entirely sure.
and how can we resolve?
Nice little bit of music, hopefully I don't get copyrighted strikes on it, so if I just keep talking over it, this Quadrasound switch definitely makes those speakers quieter, which makes sense, because hopefully it makes sense. Either there's a fault, which I'm not entirely convinced there is, or this Quadrasound system reduces the noise in one set of speakers and the other ones it doesn't. I'm not convinced there's a fault with this, if I'm honest with you. So let's get the case off. Let's have a look inside. Let's see what it looks like and see what we can do. So the most important thing I'm going to fire out there is don't forget to unplug it. All right, I did once and I regretted it for a little bit because it got a shock. But we won't go through that anymore. That was a long time ago now. So these big screws. There's kind of plates that hold this wooden bit on. I thought there was some kind of clips in the corners maybe, but remove all these screws off the bottom. All these ones with these big square clips, and then the front slides out of the wooden case. Wow. That is dusty, and I think a lot of the dust is actually off the inside of this case. Case gives us great access to this grill on the top, and I think we'll pop that out. It seems to be basically kind of glued in underneath. So we'll pop that out. Someone's decided to give me a beep outside. We'll pop that out, give it a sand. We'll pop that out, give it a sand and a clean and reattach. So, as I always say, visual inspection first. We have got our absolutely minging transistors down the back of there. To me, I think that's kind of sawdust, some kind of rubbish. Caps all look reasonable, nothing particularly obvious. The main thing I think is these two filter caps. That one looks bulgy to me. Maybe not actually. It's maybe not. It isn't bulgy. It's maybe just the cap. 35 volts, 6800 microfarads. Nippon Chemicon. They might be worth changing out of routine. They're not. They look bulgy, but they actually aren't. There's a lot of space. It's kind of this plastic cap. That one's just a little bit up, but everything else generally looks okay. There's a lot of stuff that needs servicing. There's a lot of rotational stuff. There's our radio switch over there from our selector. there's cobwebs, and I thought that was rust on that resistor there, but it's not, it's just rubbish. This radio selector cabling all is in good condition, that's good. We could maybe do a little bit of greasing on the wheels there. But that power board, there's some big resistors. Looks okay. A good start. A nice switch there. No idea what that's for, but we'll have a look in the service manual, and let's do a little bit of poking about and cleaning, and then we'll get the service manual out. We'll test all these at the back over here, make sure that they were good with these, make sure they haven't shorted at all. Although we know they haven't, but you know, it's just good to have a test and get all that gunk out of there. Right then, so it's been an hour or so, and I think it's about as warmed up as it's going to get. I'm pretty happy with these filter caps actually. They look like they're bulging, but they're not. I've had a good inspect of them. So having a play about with it then, I've put in an input. I've played it through the phono stage, and I've also played it through, there's two other inputs. There's a tape aux and there's a tape monitor. So essentially this has two inputs plus a phono stage. In doing so, I found that basically one channel wasn't working. So the right channel wasn't working. And simply in having a play about with the tape monitor button and the loudness button and things like that, and the muting button, it's kind of cleared it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give these a good scoosh out with deoxit spray, contact cleaner and whatnot, and I'll do that on camera. It's more to demonstrate the fact that something as simple as this could lead somebody to believe that this is faulty, you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some music through YouTube Studio, and what I've got is I've got a slight bit of distortion on the left hand channel. So if I go all the way over to left, it's definitely a little bit of distortion. It's just on the bass, and this is plugged into tape monitor at the moment. And I think definitely this switch isn't doing us any favours. There's a little bit of crackling with the volume up and down and the balance. So the right channel on speaker set 2, absolutely fine. The left channel the same. Potentially you could put it down to the speaker zone. That seems to have gone, so to me it's possibly the balance. General switch clean. Bass and treble work fine. What I did have is that when I tried the phono stage, I had some dimming of the lights across here, and what that was is simply that I had the test lamp still installed. So if you do have that appearing on when you're messing about with an amplifier, make sure you pull the test light. As long as you're happy that you don't need it anymore and you're safe and there's no shorts, it will draw the current and cause your lamps to dim, and therefore the sound quality of the phono stage, because you're cranking it up a little bit more. But that sounds good now that these switches have done their thing. So what I'm going to do is around the back, I'm going to pull it out of tape monitor, and I'm going to put it into tape/aux. So we're going to disengage the tape monitor, and we're in tape aux. Nothing on the right channel. Now that's interesting. Hopefully I can demonstrate my problem. So if I played about with these before, look at that. All I'm doing is touching that tape monitor switch there. Just touching it. So bad connection on the tape monitor. That's going to lead to the fact that it's potentially got a right channel problem. I'm balanced right over to the right here. If I put it back to the centre, absolutely fine. Nothing the right channel. Fixed. So there's one problem. Pretty easy fix. If we can get in. Okay. Now what I've done is I've turned my input really far down, and I'm going to put it through the phono stage. And let's test the phono stage. Now the sound quality of this is going to be different because it should be almost tinny coming in from a record player, from a turntable. So if I put this over to, let's turn the volume down just to be sure, over the phono. That's over to the right. That's over to the left. The right side does have a little distortion. Again. Rectified by the tape monitor switch. So there's our issue. That's a good thing. So what I'm going to do is we will dismantle as much as we need to get to that tape monitor switch. Give all the switches a good deoxit. We're going to pull all these knobs as well and put them through the ultrasonic just to get in those little tiny grooves in there, because they're absolutely disgusting. And I think from there, fault wise, we're good. After that, we'll pull the service manual up, we'll check the bias and everything else, and we'll just have a double check that everything is as it should be, and then hopefully we're there. So before I get into this, what I'd like to do is try and deoxit them without removing the radio strings and stuff. There's one thing I hate in this world, and it is radio string, the selector string. For some reason, it's just my common enemy, so I'll try and stay away from it. So we're going to pull some of these off. Some of them do have, some of them are pullers, should we say. Let's see if we can start with this volume knob. Yeah. And the same with the balance one. And then when we get over to here, and then these ones over here, because they're dual switches, there is actually a rotational switch on the back there, and then also this one on the front, and these usually have, and there it is, like a grub screw. And it seems like the inner one just lifts off. Alright, look at that. So all of these can go through the ultrasonic then, and then we'll just put them through with some gentle cleaner, probably some fairy liquid or degreaser or something like that. It's nice that they're metal though, instead of plastic. I'm not sure if that one. Yeah, so that's cool. Right, now that's done, we can get on to clean the switches out, give them a good deoxit and work it out from there. Right, so if anyone's not used contact cleaner, deoxit spray, whatever you want to call it, it's basically a spray with a blooming great straw on the end, and we'll just give this a good scooshing out in all these, all the button switches and the rotary switches and whatever else, and give that a good scoosh out and get rid of all the oxidization and all the dirt and whatever else that's in there. And then you do need to leave it clean, and then you do need to leave it dry afterwards before you use the unit again. So we're going to do that now, give it a good scoosh, and hopefully it's going to make a difference. As you can see, it kind of goes everywhere, but it's not going to make an amazing amount of difference, because as I say, you really need to let this dry before you go anywhere near it. You can even make a little drum beat out of it if you want, if you so wish. And you'll find this is a common problem, especially with, you know, we're talking 30, 40-year-old amps here at the moment. And then what we're going to do is going to flip it over and let gravity get that deoxit into everywhere. Obviously at the moment it's upside down. Yeah. Same again. All them contacts and everything that we've just cleaned. And let it work its magic. And then while the knobs are in the ultrasonic, let it dry and come back to it and give it another test later. Managed to get into those holes with some cotton buds and a bit of IPA. Absolutely disgusting. I'm actually ashamed of having something like that in my house that was just full of muck. No one's ever done this. It's quite satisfying to be the first person to do it. But we'll get to the cleaning stage at the end. Alright, here we go then. So all our contact cleaner deoxy is all dried out. And we've got our speakers hooked up and everything else. And now... balance left and right, great, no more distortion. Tape monitor switch isn't so twitchy. It works, which is good. But it works properly. That's it. Sounds really good. So what I want to do is just swap the speakers over. So I'll just isolate the speakers. Just swap these over to speaker 2 in my finest gold member voice. And did I put it in speaker 2 or speaker 1? Speaker 1. So to test speaker 1 as well, balance left, balance right. Nice one. So pretty straightforward. It just shows simple switch. You know, some people potentially just want to get rid as soon as it shows an issue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give the front a good cleaning and see if we can get some of that dirt off. The bulbs themselves, they're not amazing, but I don't want it too bright, so I'm going to leave them in. So a good clean, put the knobs back on, they're finished in the ultrasonic now. And I think we can start looking at recasing this and testing it with some proper speakers. I don't know what was on these, but these took a good 2, maybe 3, and 2.5, we're going to say, goes around the ultrasonic. They were absolutely disgusting. But I think now we're good. Let's get them fitted. Is in the right position. For fear of breaking them, if I'm honest with you. There we go. That should be us in the middle. Looking good. Right then, let's get on to, while we've got the cover off still, let's have a look in the service manual and just double check the bias. Power amplifier bias adjustment, and all you need for this is a multimeter. So what we're going to do is we're going to set potentiometers VR601, 602 to the full counterclockwise position. Connect the plus lead of the millivolt meter test point 5 and minus lead test point 7. Adjust the potentiometer VR601 to obtain 7.5 millivolt on each DC millivolt meter. Repeat above steps 1 and 2 for the right channel using obviously different potentiometers. And it gives you a handy dandy little diagram there. Your DC meter on the right, and then it shows you where the potentiometers and the test points are. So let's see if we can find them on a board. Alright, so we're turning and burning. We are turned on, power's on. Let's see what these two give us now without electrocuting myself. At the moment, on this channel, we have 4.14 millivolts. And on this side, we have 4.9. So a fair bit off. Need a little bit of adjustment. This is taking a hell of a lot of playing about because these are absolutely finicky. So we have got this channel over here. I got it to 7.65 millivolt, and this channel over here 7.61 millivolt. I'm not touching that anymore. That's just took me about 20 minutes. So yeah, big potentiometers, tiny little adjustments. So I'm pretty happy where we are now. I'm going to see if we can. I'm going to go outside. I've managed to get this grill off the case there, really carefully so I don't split anything, and give it a coat of paint. In the final touches now, that's the grill sanded down nicely. I've worked out that the way that the grill was actually in was that it was stapled into the chassis, and conveniently enough, I've done a bit of a test, and my personal stapler, I don't know if anybody has more than one stapler, is the perfect size to restaple this in. So I'm going to stick a layer of satin black over this now, and it should hopefully come up as expected and we can get this back together. And through the magic of cinema, there we go, look at that. That's sanded and primered and painted really nicely actually. It's got a real nice satin sheen on it. So let's get this fitted. Right, so this is the plan. In between these little bits here is where I'm going to aim my staples. I'm going to stick this in there, upside down if I can, if it'll fit. Yep. And then hopefully I can aim my stapler good enough to secure this in place. Wish me luck. Yeah. As per factory. And the ones at the back, hopefully. Alright, that's it. We're in. And this is maybe going to extremes, but the plug and the cable cleaned up really well. Like, I usually hate grey cables, but a little bit of cleaning. I love these old plugs. WG, I'm not entirely sure what that is. Something group maybe, but the style of them just works for me. That's yeah, maybe most people don't agree, but this just cleaned up really nicely. I was going to replace this with a black one, but I think I'll retain it now. So let's get this back in its case and get to the end. We've got a bit of tea towel trappage. Look at that. That looks beautiful. And then final steps is these kind of sharpened edge washer bits. And these have already got marks in to where they were, so as to not mark the case any further, I'd like to position them exactly where they were and then get them screwed down. Call me pedantic if you want, but it just reduces the amount of wear and tear on an already quite fragile wooden case, and I'd like to retain that quality of the case. So there we go, put all our screws in and then listen to some glorious tunes. And there we are. Absolutely amazing, happy with that. I know I mentioned it in passing at the start there, but I just wanted to share a little bit of information that I found on this Quadrasound. So although it does say in big letters on the front of the amp, stereo receiver, This Quadrasound was a system where it kind of produced a double stereo effect, shall we say. And it's in the manuals for these amplifiers, simulated 4-channel operation. And what it's saying is that speaker 1 is your main speakers, is to be in the front, and speaker 2 terminals are to be referred to as the back speakers. Now I thought there would be, 2 left, 2 right, 1 on top, whatever, but it's a bit more stranger than that, which I think is pretty curious and also pretty cool. So it's something that I can maybe have a play with, but you really need to position these speakers in a certain way to get what they recommend out of it. And there we go. That's the suggested positioning of your front and back speakers. So without Quadrasound, the manual says that you can simply have a second pair of speakers in a different room in the manual, which is good. And then once you've got your Quadrasound in, you flick it on, and that is how you're supposed to have yourself set up. And now, how often is anybody particularly going to sit in the middle of a room and position those speakers like that? So maybe that's particularly why it didn't really catch on as well. It's not something certainly that we've dragged up into the 21st century, I don't believe. Obviously with separate channels now, 5 and 7 channels separately with Dolby and things like that. But to me, this was a really interesting part of it, and I'd like to give this a go in the future if I can find 4 speakers that will give me what I want out of it. But we'll have a bit of a play. Obviously I can't demonstrate this on YouTube, but that's something that's possible with this amplifier. So there we go, all done. Another one fully functional, cleaned and restored to the best it can possibly be. I would argue possibly this is one of the finest examples of this amplifier that's available. After the work that we've done, all the little bits, the servicing, there's nothing else that can be done further with this other than to enjoy it. From looking at my stats, £137.50 when it was new equates to about 600 quid in today's money. So there we go, worth every penny. If you enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing. 85% of you aren't subscribed, and it makes me really happy when people subscribe, because it means that I can fire out more videos knowing that people would like to watch them. Have a great day. I'm off to find something else for the next video. Bye bye.